Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. I am your headmaster, Jim Schubert. I hope you're ready to grow big or go home. I've got my buddy Will Moore today who's going to talk about how to gamify your habits. This is something that is super important for insurance agents, agency owners who are trying to get that much better at their craft and are trying to figure out how in the heck do I find the time to do all this stuff. I know it's something I struggle with a lot. I'm anxious to hear what Will has to say. Before we get into that, I do want to thank one of our partners, which is ePay Policy. Y'all have heard me talk about them before if you've been listening to this for any amount of time, but ePay has done wonders for our agency in terms of being able to collect agency bill premium a whole lot faster than we used to. It used to take us 5 to 7 days to collect premium that if we were using an agency billed carrier, if it was E&S or something like that, we had to collect. It would take forever. And that was when the mail wasn't getting lost. Now that we're having all the problems with mail that we're having, it's taking even longer. So we just now send a link via ePay Policy to our clients, and they have the option to pay via credit card or ACH. Makes it super simple. They're now getting into the lockbox arena. So if you still receive paper checks and you can't get everybody to get away from that, you can have them send it to this lockbox. It's called Checkmate, and they'll take care of all that for you. Super simple. You can get out of the check business, the check processing business altogether. So there's a link in the show notes of the podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere like that, there'll be a specific link there for you to check that as well. Let me tell you about Will, the handsome guy on the screen. He is an entrepreneur, habits, gamification, and happiness expert. Didn't you ever want to meet a happiness expert? I know I did. After exiting his delivery startup for a 9-figure sum, Will realized that true success is not just about finances, but nurturing and finding balance in the 5 core areas of your life scientifically linked to happiness: mindset, career and finances, relationships, physical health, emotional health, and giving back, which we talk about a lot on this show. Will's now dedicated his life to helping others run their lives as a successful startup of the most important business they'll ever run, their lives. His More Momentum system helps people gamify their habits by combining universal principles, science, and tech to want to replace their failure habits with success habits in all 5 cores. Will Moore, what is going on, my friend?
Wow, what an intro. Thank you. Thank you, my man, Jim. That was very, very nice. Not a lot. I am ready to party. I'm ready to hopefully bring some value and give your listeners something they can take away from here to help them not only in their career with their insurance, but also, with their lives as a whole, and all 5 of these cores here.
Oh, I love it. Oh, okay. So if you're watching this and you can zoom in, there are the 5 cores right behind him. So it's awesome. I'm sure you'll probably tell them where they can learn more about those at some point. But I'm curious, when you talk about gamifying your habits, now it's one thing to get control over your habits, but why gamify? How did that come about?
Good question. So yeah, I've always been a gamer. I've always been a kind of a geeky, back in the day. I mean, I'm 46. So,
Hey,
going back
just turned 45. We're like a year apart.
we're right there. And anybody in that time frame will remember Atari came out, and it was Atari and ColecoVision. It was like, do you have an Atari or a ColecoVision? Atari won out, then it was Nintendo came out, and your brain exploded. It was like the graphics.
My kids got me Nintendo. They got me Nintendo socks. They got me Super Mario Brothers socks for my birthday.
I love it. I love it because it's important. One of the things I teach people, and part of this whole thing we're talking about is kind of getting back to that playful side that we all have in us that tends to slowly but surely get kind of pulled away. And before we know it, we're adults who just are caught up in daily to-dos and are stressed, and we forget what life is really about, which is kids don't have a problem doing. It's play, it's wonder, it's passion, it's enthusiasm. Sky's the limit. I can be anything, do anything. And games allow you to do that. So yeah, I've just always been real interested in that. And then I had a bit of a rocky childhood where my parents got divorced early. We moved around quite a bit, and actually, my mom was battled with alcoholism and a severe temper, and these types of things. And so, bottom line is, by the time I got to college, I was like your typical, what I now call, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I call it a fixed victim, which is somebody who's like, my brain is broken. I was born the way I am. There's nothing I can really do about it. I'm a loser. I got nothing going for me. And why even bother trying? Because, everything is the way that it is.
Yeah.
And, maybe the only way that I'll have some sort of good fortune is if I like hit the lottery or some external force helps me, versus the growth owner mindset that I've since developed. It didn't happen overnight, but with my system and my program that I kind of was using myself, that I'm now helping people I put it all together to help people. But it's sort of, the growth owner is, I've got everything within me to kick ass, take names. Obstacles are temporary roadblocks waiting for solutions. Every step that I take, I'm becoming bigger, better, faster, stronger. If I fail, great, because what did I learn from it? How can I move forward?
Yeah.
And everything's malleable and flexible, and it's up to me to change myself and my life and my surroundings and everything around me to have the life that I want. So that doesn't happen overnight. And so I just got really, in college, I actually got suicidal. I was in a really bad place. And I just serendipitously stumbled upon a self-help book by one of my professors had recommended, who I really admired. He was kind of
Did they know you were struggling?
No, he was a younger, hip, cool professor, like the guy that you sit in class and you're like, which doesn't happen very often, but you're like, I want to be that guy when I grow up.
Yeah.
Like, he's cool. Yeah. Right. And he just happened to mention, and he was just so confident in everything he did. And I just remember thinking, God, like, how does a person even get that way? And in passing one day, he's like, so I read this book when I was younger, completely changed my life and my outlook on everything. It was called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I didn't hear another word he said, wrote that thing down, went straight to the school library. And to this day, I wonder if they didn't have the book, how my life might have turned out, but they did. I was fortunate, and I devoured it. And I was like, holy shnikes. Yeah. There's another way to look at life and myself and the world. And I realized there's these, I call them these, well, it's not my term, but I like the term universal principles, which I consider, and I kind of started devouring all these other books and all these, I got into this genre, and I realized there's these sort of principles that come up over and over again that have sort of proven themselves throughout history and are going to prove themselves and maintain, and you can hang your hat on until we destroy ourselves as human beings. But bottom line is, it's like, okay, this is a principle that you want to develop your life around, that you want to develop your habits around. Mm-hmm. To ignore it, you're going to get in trouble. And they're all around. There's actually not as many as people might think. And it was intimidating, but I was determined to kind of figure out what all these were, and then to sort of start building my life around it. And so I just started doing that and taking crazy notes and like using myself as a human science experiment and trying different things and then recording how it went and all this. It's just how my brain is built. And so over the years, I started gaining more and more knowledge and really figuring out what these principles were and what, through what I've read. And then, so if I read something like 4 or 5 times and then experienced it in my own life, I'm like, all right, this is one. Like, this is legit. Because you'll read, like, if you Google universal principles, it's very hard to try to, there's not like one list where you're like, okay, here they all are.
Yeah. It's subjective.
It's subjective, and they're all over the place. So that's basically, flash forward 25 years, I just slowly but surely started kind of building my own confidence and momentum. And one of the things I decided I wanted to do was become so filthy, stinking rich that everybody that was ever mean to me would feel so bad and so stupid, right? The old revenge tale. So I did that. I started reading all sorts of financial books and figuring out how to. So I kind of built this real estate empire, and then I also started a business called, at the time it was called Doorstep Delivery, which is akin now to like a Grubhub or an Uber Eats before any of those businesses had even started. So we're going back like we're going back like 14, 15 years. Nice. We opened the year of the iPhone, that the iPhone came out. And
Yeah,
it was
2008.
all, yeah. Well, and it was great because before we opened up, there were businesses that were trying to do what we were doing, but they would be called like telephone takeout and stuff.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it's like you would have to call and say, I want to order from this restaurant. And you'd have
Yeah.
to have the menu in front of you. Now, all of a sudden, we could like put it on your phone and you could just click what you wanted to order and it send it through to our system. And then our dispatcher would say, okay, this guy's ordering 2 blocks away. I'm going to send this driver over there. And then he would
Yeah.
send it to the driver. The driver would immediately get, the map on their phone and know where to
Yeah.
go and what they're picking up. It changed everything.
Yeah.
And we bootstrapped it. We didn't raise money. So we kind of did it the slow way. We started building momentum. And then, these companies, about 8 years in, we were doing very well. We'd opened 19 branches across the country and we were growing and we had franchises and corporate branches. But then like Amazon and Grubhub and Uber, they all started getting into it. And we're like, okay, well, and they basically started coming into our areas and saying, hey, I know you work with these guys, and talking to our restaurants and basically poaching our restaurants and saying, we'll do it for free for, 2 years. And there's essentially, they had so much money, they could lose money hand over fist in order to gain market share.
Yeah.
Bottom line, we knew the writing was on the wall that we couldn't do anything about that. So we wouldn't be able to compete long-term. So we put ourselves up for sale. And we were able to find a partner, which we actually grew with. Awesome. At first. We raised money and we grew, and then we were able to exit in 2019. Wow. So from that perspective, it was kind of a cool moment because I realized it was like, 10 years of my life just going into this career in finance portion of it, and sort of realizing towards the end, I didn't love it anymore. And it was sucking my energy and my soul and my happiness. But my partners actually wanted to compete with these other guys and keep going. I was like, no, we got to get out. Like the writing's on the wall. And then just having that moment where I finally got out, it felt like an anchor lifted off my shoulders. And then all of a sudden I had this money to sort of do whatever I wanted to do. Sure. And I immediately came back to this system that I'd kind of developed for myself over the years. And I thought, how can I put this into something that's simple and tangible for anybody to sort of pick up and be able to help, guide their own life in the right direction in these main areas of their lives.
Yeah. And I think that's, one of the most powerful ways to build a system that actually works for other people is when you've had personal experience, and when you're out there teaching it, you have something tangible and real that you can point to, tell stories about, which I talk about a lot. That's what my book that I'm writing is about storytelling. And once you can do that, you've got somebody's attention because it's the real deal. You have actual real life experience. So I'm curious now, and I know the audience is probably curious. Tell us more. I listed off what those 5 core values are. Tell us, or core areas. Tell us what, like a little bit about 1 or 2, or however many you want, and why they're important, and how people can gamify them.
Yeah. So just to remind the audience, and you can go to my website, More Momentum, Moore, my last name, momentum.com. And there's actually a tab at the top that says 5 cores.
Yeah. I was super confused about that because I didn't know, I hadn't looked at your last name so Josh Tapp, the guy whose company produces this show, he introduced me and Will together, I think. And then he basically, I had no idea that Moore wasn't More. So I was confused. So Moore.
Yep. Moore, momentum.com. And it's got the list of 5 cores, but your mindset, which basically that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, that growth owner versus fixed victim. Everything that's the most important of all the cores. You get your mind working for instead of against you. And everything else becomes incrementally easier. It's about, making sure that, like I said, fear, you give fear the finger. Failure is one of these things where you look at and you don't think you're a loser, but instead go, oh man, that sucked, but what did I learn from it? How can I grow? These types of things. And then career and finances, obviously a big part of everybody's lives, but what people miss, I think, is, are you incorporating your strengths and your passions? Because you're always going to be the best, and you're always going to be able to make the most amount of money when you're doing something that you're naturally good at, that you really love and are interested. Because what we were just talking about in mindset, these roadblocks and these challenges and these failures are going to happen. And if you're not if you're not at least really into what you're doing and have that, like, I know I'm going to make it no matter what, because this is what I was meant to do here. It's just so much harder. And you're going to be like 99% of the people out there, and you're going to be like, this is too hard. I'm going to go back to doing whatever. Right. It just allows you. And I'm not saying you have to wake up every day singing zippity doo dah, this is the best day ever, because there's going to be challenges and stuff, but just in general, like being like, I'm really good at this and I really love this. And then knowing what your weaknesses are and sort of outsourcing them, and then understanding the incrementally building your wealth along the way. It's amazing to me that schools don't really teach passive income and these types of things and how to invest. And it's just like, good news is it's becoming more and more common and people are understanding, and there's apps and stuff, but I still think there's a lot of misnomers. And, you've got apps like Robinhood where people just use it as a gambling site. They don't understand, how to actually, take some money, and you can do it very easily with technology these days, just right out of your paycheck, put it right into stocks to grow long-term, these types of things. Real estate, obviously something that I got into along the way. I now own 10 rental properties that produce, that are all pretty much all paid off, and they produce awesome revenue every single month. Wow. So, just figuring out those things and how to do them. So not only the part of your career and finances and managing it and how to push through those areas, but taking that money and actually making sure it's exponentially growing, not trying to make it all super fast, but realizing like, if I keep doing this for 20 years, I'm going to have X amount of dollars. Like, and then, relationships is, pretty basic. It's, just the relationships you have with, people like you and I, acquaintances, colleagues, people you meet, and, to me, and then you've got the ones with your significant other, friends and family. At the end of the day, you want to look at it as, how can I join forces? How can me and this person, synergize to where we're helping each other gain momentum? We're on the same team. We're growing together, versus I think a lot of people, depending on the type of relationship, it's me versus them. Like, how can I get as much as I can from this person? Which is, it's a natural way to think. That's a primal, thing that's in our DNA, is being selfish and wanting to survive and thrive. But ironically, by doing that, we end up shooting ourselves in the foot.
Right.
Then physical health, which is pretty self-explanatory. The main areas: sleep, eating, and exercise, and the whole thing with all of these core areas I'm talking about. The part that I help people gamify, and that this is the real fun part, is I'm helping them customize each of these. So they're understanding the cores that are important. Then they're understanding, okay, what are the top habits that I need to develop in this core to make sure that I'm filling this core, that this core is headed in the right direction, right? So like, if you picture this rocket behind me, picture, momentum juice slowly filling up in each core, but you don't want it to just be one core. You want it to be all five. So you're trying to balance them and making sure. And that's all, everybody's different. So for instance, with exercise, it's, my wife loves running. She was a runner in high school. She loves getting on the Peloton bike. I hate those things. Right. And so that's not a good generic thing to go tell people is, or go to the gym. I don't like any of those. But I love playing basketball. I love playing tennis. I love, certain sports where I feel like I'm not even working out because I'm so into it, and I'm getting so much exercise. And then I do my own things at home, like I get like push-ups and little challenges that I give myself, where I challenge myself. And I won't go into too much detail because we only have so much time. But doing sort of customizing all of these habits to yourself is so important, and personalizing them so that you want to take the actions, so that you're reducing the friction of getting over that hump of building a habit. Because at the end of the day, habits don't care if they're good or bad, helping or hurting you. They are going to just compound and do their thing over time. So part of my system is helping you shine a spotlight on what those habits you currently have developed in each of your cores, and then saying, okay, what do we want to replace them with? And then reducing the friction to sort of start building them, so it doesn't feel like an insurmountable task, and you're kind of doing things that you already enjoy and naturally are doing. There's stuff called habit stacking, which, if anybody's read James Clear, Atomic Habits, great book. I don't think he coined the phrase, but he definitely popularized it, where it's like, you've already got momentum from a habit you're already doing. So for instance, in the morning, I take a shower, and I used to just be thinking about all the stuff that was going on in the day. A lot of times it was negative and I'd be stressing. Now I've habits stacked. I've added 3 habits to that, 3 success habits to that are automatic. I don't even have to think about, because I've already gotten over that hump of forming them, and they're automatics. And one is I remind myself what I'm grateful for. The second is I say my mantra to myself, which is a personalized paragraph that I say to myself that basically just gets me going and reminds myself of things that are most important and I want to remember that day. Yeah. And then the third is my stretches, which I tore my Achilles, or not my Achilles, my ACL a couple of years ago, and I have to do these stretches. And at first I was like, oh, I don't want to do them. And now it's like I do them in the shower, because the warmth of the shower, everything's kind of more limber and stuff. And I'm stretching while I'm doing my mantra, while I'm doing these, this grateful for list, and I come out and I'm jacked. I'm like, let's go. Yeah. Right. And so that's just an example of how to sort of gamify your habits. And then, stuff like I'm always encouraging, using technology and different things, like I was saying, with your money apps that you can use, just using things around you that are all around you that a lot of people they're not aware of how they can personalize them to themselves and get them sort of to help them building these habits. And so that's the basic gist. I think I missed the last habit, is emotional health and giving back. But I was a mouthful, so I just wanted to pause there.
No. That's obviously an important one, but yeah, you had me when you said the compounding effect, because you were talking about finances before. And obviously, one of the principles of good finances is the God's greatest gift to the world is compound interest, right?
Right.
But right. to think that your habits could compound over time to make you into almost this superhuman version of yourself, whoever you used to be, right? In the years when you were struggling, right. with mental health. And then now to look at you and listen to you and think there's no way that could be the same person, but it is. But you've become such a better version of yourself because you've been able to harness this concept of gamifying them and making it so deeply a part of your everyday life that it's compounded into the person that you've become today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And yeah, that's exactly the point. And I feel like it's a cliche these days to be like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But I mean, right. You look at me now, you're like, what is this guy? There's no way this guy was suicidal, or trust me, I was. Yeah. I mean, I was this close, and I was convinced that I had mental health issues, and all I could think about was the negative, and because those were the habits that I developed, and that was what I lived every day, and that was taking me down a deep, dark path. Yeah. And so what I like to tell everybody is, in my system and the way I help people, you can't try to do it all at once, because that's what everybody tries to do. Like, look at New Year's resolutions, right? All right, let's go. This year I'm going to, and then you see like 1,000 people in the gym on day one, and then a little less the next day. And then after the first week, it's like dropped off like 95%. Yeah. Because people try to do it all at once, and they're like, I'm going to get in shape in 2 days, right? No, you have to start small. You have to start with, like I said, those habits. There's little tricks, gamification ways to trick your brain into wanting to do it. Such as make it obvious. Like if you're trying to replace your midnight snacking with the Doritos and the cookies that you're eating, like, all right, make it invisible by getting rid of those and literally just tossing them, and make it obvious by putting what you do want to snack on right in front of you at eye level when you open that cupboard. Yeah. Right. Just little things like that. And there's so many ways to do it. And but it's starting small, starting with one habit. I don't even have you start with one habit in all your course. I just usually start with the mindset. And we start with one habit in that. And then you slowly start, it's a really cool ripple effect, because as you start to build it, your confidence grows, your energy grows, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to do more, right? And then you slowly start taking on more and more, and before you know it, I call it firing on all cylinders. You got your rocket ship as the analogy of you as a human being, and the idea is, you want to be boosting flying through that universe. But to break Earth's gravitational pull to begin with, to get off the ground just to begin with, you got to start small. And if you're going to start replacing these habits in each of these cores.
That makes so much sense. Before we jump into the rapid fire round, I want to ask you, as far as transformations that you've seen in others that you've helped out, can you share with us some of the transformations or just things that stick out to you as like big moments of, wow, this person used to be like this, now they're like this?
People that I've coached and helped, you mean? Yeah. So my alma mater, Rollins College, is where I went to school, where I ironically now I've been invited back and I've spoken there, and I'm a mentor for a bunch of kids when, right, as I said, at one point I was suicidal. So it's a pretty neat full circle. That's cool. And so I started mentoring some students from there. One in particular, he's on my way. I actually have some testimonials on my website. I think he's probably the first one, but he basically, I used my system. And because, I was like, I was you. Like, he just reminded me so much of myself at that age when I was struggling. I was like, dude, I wish to God somebody had what I now know 25 years later. I wish I had that information. And so I just slowly started giving it to him and helping him sort of work through these areas. And then he graduated and he got the job. At first he got a job that was paying a lot of money, but he wasn't loving what he was doing. And we sort of helped him to work through on how to not give that up so he could pay his rent, but to start searching into what he was really good. And then he did. He pivoted. He quit his job. Now he's killing it. He's crushing it because he's doing stuff that he uses his strengths and his passions, like I was talking about earlier. And he's understood what his weaknesses are and how to outsource and not focus on those with what he's doing. And now he's got a girlfriend that is probably going to become his wife, and he works out regularly. He does like to go to the gym. So, all these cores, I'm just watching this rocket ship that I've built. And it's just really neat to see that he was, just like me, sputtering and having a trouble getting off the ground. And now he's in full flight.
That's awesome. That was a beautiful thing, man. That's cool.
Yeah. There's no better feeling. I mean, that's why I do what I do, right? I mean, to help people, again, not to sound like a cliche, but the emotional health and giving back, that's the fifth core. There's a reason giving back is part of that. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying earlier with primal, like it's natural to be selfish, and it's like me. But if we're able to like help other people and see this, not only what we get out of that, but then what they get out of that and how happy it makes them, which just comes back on us even more and gives us energy and makes us feel good, as well as them usually almost always repaying the favor in some way.
Yeah.
It's like, duh, why doesn't everybody do this?
Yeah.
And so I mean, I love it. I can't imagine my life not doing what I'm doing.
That's awesome, man. And there's no better way to live, honestly. And I think that's why a lot of insurance agents love what they do, because there is a huge amount of being able to give back in helping someone through the toughest time of their life, because people use our product on their worst day every time.
That's right. So
for us to be able to be there and help them, I think insurance agents can relate to that. But then looking at their own lives now and hearing what you're saying, I think there's a lot of people out there who are probably feeling like, you know what, I could probably be doing better. I know I could. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking like already, I know for me what the struggles are, and I'm not ashamed to admit, like, I know I need to do a lot better job exercising. And that's like my son, he has gotten jacked over the last year because he decided to take up weightlifting. He was in the 106 weight class for wrestling last. He wrestled for the last 2 years, and he was the youngest guy on the team, so he was getting razzed a lot because it's the upperclassmen. It was really, really tough on him mentally more than anything. And he finally stopped doing wrestling at the end of last year. But as soon as he stopped, he said, "Dad, you know what? I'm kind of sick of being this like skinny little kid. I'm gonna go make it happen." I was like, "Hey, buddy, I'm excited for you." And you know what? Like, I think that's part of it, and I'm sure you've seen this. It does require a certain amount of drive, because he pushed through. And I'm telling you, like, he'll come home, and he now works at Chick-fil-A. He'll come home and they close at 9, and he'll come home at like 9:30, and he'll still have homework. He'll go downstairs and work out and then do his homework. And I mean, he'll still get enough sleep. He probably needs to go a little bit more. That's for sure. But the dude is jacked. He's now 2 inches taller than me, and which doesn't take a lot. I'm a towering 5'6", but he is jacked.
I mean, I love that. And let me take what you just told me and kind of apply it to what I'm saying and to those listeners and how they can do that in their lives.
Yeah.
So I call it Simon Sinek. I don't know if anybody's familiar with him, but he talks about connecting to your why, right? Yes. I mean, there's an element of, you have to really want to do it. And one of the exercises I help people do is actually, it's called the Back to the Future exercise, because I'm an 80s kid. Nice. It used to be called the funeral exercise, but that was way too morbid. I'm like, Back to the Future is way better, and it's 80s. But it's basically flash forwarding to the end of your life and literally like going, okay, what do I want said at my funeral? Like when it's all said and done, like, and that just forces you to get rid of all the bullshit and like, what's important to me? Like, who's the person I want to be and become, and what do I want people to say about me? And I have them do it in each of their cores. And then that starts to help you hone in on the habits that are really important to you. And then, so your son realized, like, I really this is what I want. I want to be strong. This is who I want to be. And he connected deep down inside. Yeah. And he figured out a way, which is the next step in my process. It's fake it till you make it, using gamification methods. So I don't know how he did it, but what he was able to do is connect the dots between saying, okay, I want to develop this habit, and developing it. And there's a huge front-loaded hump there. So make no mistake, it's not easy to develop a habit, but what I help people do is I help them to do it in small bursts and to reduce the friction so that it almost feels like it's not work, but it's still going to be work. But you're kind of faking it until you're making it. You're using these techniques like making it obvious. Like, so for instance, I don't know how he did it, but like one idea would be if somebody's trying to work out, like, put their workout shoes, somewhere like where they can see them as they're going by at a certain time, like in the morning, like, okay, I want to work out, like just put your shoes there or get yourself to just put your shoes on, like starting super small and simple. And then once your shoes are, you're like, oh, they're already on. I might as well start. Right. And using these little tricks to kind of trick your brain into doing it. And then once you've done it enough times, and there is no magic number, by the way, some people will try to say 30 days to change a habit. It's scientifically proven. That's all bullshit. It's all comes down to your specific self, your personality, that habit itself, the method that you're using, and it's something might take a week. Like for instance, I realized that I wasn't flossing regularly a couple of years ago, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I'm a grown man, because I'd always had great teeth and I never had to worry about it. And all of a sudden, the dentist is like, "Are you flossing?" I'm starting to see. I'm like, okay, that's it. That's all I needed to hear. And I added it. I used a habit stack, and I added it onto my routine to where every time I went to go brush my teeth, I had the floss was right next to it, and I remembered, nope, first I got to floss, and it wasn't just. And then what I would do to reduce the friction is I always like to look out my window every morning. I live up on the second story, and I've spent a lot of time on my yard. I'm this nerdy yard dad now as I've gotten older. Who would have thought? I remember just seeing my mom doing yard work and being like, Jesus, why are you wasting your time? Now I'm like, let's go, my yard. Look, something's blooming. So I love looking at my yard every day. And so now I floss while I sort of admire my handiwork and look at the yard. And it doesn't, right? So it's like reduce the friction. I'm not just sitting there going 1, 2, 2, 2.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even, right? And I'm just doing it. And then when I finish that, I go right into brushing my teeth. And then another just quick little trick for brushing your teeth is you want to leave the toothpaste in there, because people, I think 99% of people, they rinse their mouth out after they brush, right? Like, do you rinse your mouth out right after you brush?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that, because you want the fluoride and you want the toothpaste to sit there for a while and do its thing. Cause that's the longer it's on there, the better it can do what it's meant to do. So, but you don't want crap in your mouth. So I spit out, and I actually do rinse, and then I actually take a fresh brush. I kind of lightly brush over all my teeth, and that way it's on there. And it doesn't really feel like toothpaste is in there, but I've left it on there for, however long, and then I forget about it, and it's sitting in there longer. So it's just all these sorts of little tips and tricks to get over that front loaded hump of forming the habit. And then all of a sudden, one day you wake up and it's a habit. And you don't even have to think about it. It's on autopilot, just like your son.
This episode is brought to you by the American Dental Association. I had no idea that we were going to be getting into dental care, but I mean, wow, that's actually really cool. Especially thinking about the flossing thing and just the simple act of drawing your attention to something that really catches your eye, and for you, like you have a passion about it. Like that's
right.
I'm thinking about like, what in my bathroom could I do? Like, is there a picture of something? Right.
Right. And that's it. And
my bathroom is my
personalize
neighbor's house. So it's like, I don't really want to look at my neighbor's house, but maybe there's something.
Well, and that's just it. You're doing exactly what you want to do. And what I help people do is to find that personalization. And I'm actually building out something that's going to make it a lot easier for people like you and everybody. It's called Momentopedia. And what it's going to be is it's going to essentially be kind of like Wikipedia, where you have a list of all of the cores and tons of different habit examples within them, as well as gamification examples within them. So you can literally just go in and search like flossing, and you can search and see what a bunch of people are doing. And one of them you might go, that resonates with me. Boom. Now you have it, and you can connect with that person, and you guys can form little tribes and have little groups of like, we're all working on this habit and support each other and stuff.
Okay, I love that, because that's what I need. There's certain things that I can be creative in my life, and habit forming and habit creation is probably not one of them. So, because I'm sitting here thinking like, I could put my sneakers in the doorway of the bathroom so that I must like pass them in order to go into the bathroom and close the door.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And again, everybody's different, and it's going to be different things for different people. Their houses are different. They're different. So, I have this app that I'm developing that, I think it's impossible. And that's why especially in this day and age with the millions of things coming at us in a million different directions. We're in this tech world where it's all on demand, and you get anything at a push of a button. Like you and I are going to have this conversation, and no offense to you, but what most people will do, and maybe you're the exception, the 1%, but most people will say, yeah, I should do that, right? You read something, you get excited, you talk to somebody, you're motivated, but then there's no system to put it into place. And so that's what I'm all about, is having a system that you can actually use to hold yourself accountable and have fun doing it. So my app is basically going to be, you're a rocket ship and you have these 5 cores, and the break Earth's gravitational pull. You very slowly but surely start replacing your habits in each of your cores. You start with your mindset, and then it just grows and grows, and you start doing more, and you start upgrading your ship, and you have start fighting through asteroid fields, and you're meeting aliens on different planets, giving you universal principles. And it just, and you've got Momentopedia points that you can kind of brag about to others and be like, look how many I have. And there's competition and social connectivity and rewards and all these things that we love in games that I'm putting into, actually helping people to change their habits on.
So this is in the works currently.
I've been working on it for almost 3 years. If you go to my website and you click on, again, it's MOORE, momentum.com, and you click on at the top, it actually has an app tab, and it'll give you a preview of some of the screenshots and what it is going to do.
And people can sign up to be notified when this is.
Yep. And you can sign up, and it'll say, I want to know when beta's out, which will hopefully be within the next 6 months. Like I said, it's been a labor of love. I mean, this started 25 years ago, before app was even possible. And I had my own. I've been using Excel spreadsheets for years. It started It started with a piece of paper that I wrote on, and I actually took from Benjamin Franklin. He actually has his 13 virtues, going way back, where he put the habits that he called them virtues that he's working on down the spine and across the top, Monday through Sunday. And literally each day, at the end of the day, he would just check off and say, did I do this? Did I do this? So this is taking that. And then I took that to the next level by putting it into Excel spreadsheets and stuff. And then now taking it even further, because even for me, it takes too long. And so I'm like, I need an app where I can just very quickly in the morning review my habits, see what I want to work on. And then at night, I can just review and say, okay, how did I do this? How did I do today? And you score yourself, and you're reminded, and there's a little journal section where you say best part of the day, worst part that you learned from. And you're holding yourself accountable. And it's magic how then throughout the day, you're like, oh shit, I got to report my score. Like, and you start catching yourself in the act of doing these bad habits and replacing them.
I love it. Well, Lucky for everybody listening, you just gave about 5 to 10,000 people a little bit more. Well, they became your accountability partner for this thing because now they want it, and the clock is ticking. No pressure.
I'm working every day, super hard.
No,
I really am.
no, I'm kidding. I love it. I can't wait till it comes out, and I did sign up, and I'm looking forward to that. Let's jump into the rapid fire round real quick.
Yep.
And one of the first things I want to ask you, this is so perfect because we're talking about apps. What's one piece of technology or software that you can't live without?
I mean, I sit at my computer every day, and I have everything kind of like in segments where I feel like I'm using technology in a good way. I think tech, as Stan Lee once said, tech can be, with great power, there comes great responsibility. So you can either use technology to just scroll on Facebook and make yourself feel bad, or you can, and I feel like I've developed a system where both on my phone and my computer that I use tech to help me build momentum every day, I guess would be the best way to say it. And then the app is going to sort of culminate all that and put it together.
I love it. What's one book that you're reading right now, or one that you just love that you've read and want to share with folks?
I just reread Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg. Highly recommend it. I mentioned Atomic Habits earlier by James Clear.
I am reading
those.
That right now.
Those two books are. I would first read B.J. Fogg because Clear actually got a lot of his info from Fogg, and then I would read Atomic Habits. But if you're reading Atomic Habits first, it doesn't matter. I read Atomic Habits first, but if people haven't yet, it takes everything I'm talking about, and it really helps you connect with the importance and of habits. And they don't call them gamification methods, but they use the same types of tips and tricks to sort of help you trick your brain. The problem I had with them and why I was so excited I'm like, sweet, I'm on the right track. When I finally did read those books, I'd already been developing my system. They don't have an actual system that like we were just talking about, that makes it easy to stick to and hold yourself accountable. It's more like, you should make a list of the things that you want to do and, reference it. And it's kind of like, no, like that's too vague.
It's not concrete enough. Yeah.
I need something that's every day I open it up and it's going to be like, boom, here's your course. Here's the habits that you're working on. Here's how you're gamifying them. And,
cool.
So yeah, those are the two.
Love it. Yeah. I love it, man. What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Well, we kind of talked about this earlier with this mentee that I'm training. I've got a 3, and I also have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-month-old boy. They're all boys. So, I mean, I do look at them as little mini me's, and it just takes everything I'm doing to the next level of me wanting to make sure that they never suffer and go through what I went through. Yeah. And so my advice would just be that, kind of going back to the 10,000 foot view of you're a growth owner. And just drilling that in and being like, nothing's fixed. Like nothing is set in stone, and you're going to have certain strengths, but you're going to have certain weaknesses too. And I put weaknesses in quotation because not you can't be great at everything. It's not possible. And so don't compare yourself to others and go, instead focus on those things that you're God-given good at, that you happen to have. And then pay attention to those passions and those things that you're really excited about, and just let your life go in that direction. And knowing every time you fail or you run into a roadblock, it's a learning experience. That's the key versus, oh shit, I knew I couldn't do it. Like, why did I even bother trying? But no, it's a learning experience. And really it's up to you. Don't rely on somebody else to bring your happiness, or to do it for you, or click a button and have for just $9.99, have your life solved. It ain't going to work that way. You got to put in the work. But it's worth it. And, and just know that you can become anybody you want. 'Cause like you said, and I appreciate it, like if you were to interview me back then and now, I mean, it's like 2 different people.
Yeah. I love it, man. That's great. All right. Trick question here for you. Maybe surprise question for you. If you had the choice between eating a hot, delicious bowl of soup or gourmet marshmallows and hot chocolate, what would you choose? Soup or hot chocolate?
Soup for sure.
Soup for sure.
Yeah.
What kind of soup?
New England clam chowder with those little
Ooh.
oyster crackers in
Oh,
it.
heck yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking healthy. That's not a healthy option, but
All right. What's
it's
another
my
one?
favorite soup. Chili. I love me some chili. I guess you can consider that a soup. But I do like sweets as well, and just kind of 10,000 foot view on your health. And there are ways to get those to sort of, again, gamifying your eating habits. Like, you don't need to go cold turkey, and diets do not work. I mean, that's been scientifically
Yeah.
proven. Like, if you
Yeah.
starve yourself and keep yourself using willpower alone to
Yeah.
use eating the things that you want, you will always go back.
Yeah.
It's temporary. You need to develop an actual habits of, you know what, this food, and at first it may not taste quite as good, so like my stack that I eat at night is it's mixed nuts, and sometimes I'll mix it with a protein bar. And at first I was like, these mixed nuts aren't as good as the Doritos, but I really like, for me, it was the closest thing. Like, I love
Yeah.
nuts. And so you got to find what is that for you that tastes almost as good. But what's going to end up happening is, again, fake it till you make it. You put it at eye level, you get rid of the other stuff. It's all that there is. And then you start eating that. And what's going to happen is it's going to become a habit, and you're going to start feeling really good about it. And you're not going to regret that you just ate it. You're going to be like, fuck yeah, I just ate that. And my stomach's full now, and I feel great about myself. And, and it's just it's going to propel your momentum in that direction. So it's finding more of those types of things.
I love it. Well, I'm going to give you more, Mr. Moore, things like that, because I'm going to send you a package of soup from Spoonful of Comfort. And I'm going to, this is we give all of our guests, this is, we give them a gift. Let them choose between soup and hot chocolate. So I'm going to send you the soup, and I'll get your address off air so we can send that.
I love it.
But comes in a nice little package with some extra goodies in there that I think you guys will love.
Yeah, so. I love all soup. I only mentioned two because you asked me my favorites, but I'm
they don't make either of those, so I'm going to find out another one from you off air.
right on.
Yeah. It's
Can't
awesome.
go wrong.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, man. It's been fantastic. What's well, first of all, where can people, if they want to get more in their lives, more of Will Moore in their lives, where is the best place for them to connect with you?
So the website we mentioned, More Momentum, MOORE momentum.com. There's a little quiz that you can take. It takes like 2 minutes, and it'll give you a 10,000-foot view of where you stand in each of your 5 cores. It'll kind of show you where you're lacking and maybe where you're stronger than you thought. And then from there, if you want to work with me, just, let me know and reach out to me. And like I said, I'll have the app coming out hopefully within the next 6 months or so. But this is my 3rd app I've developed. Awesome. I developed a few with my old business. It always takes longer than you think it's gonna. That's just par for the course.
Love it. What's one last piece of advice or actionable step that you would leave folks with?
Well, I would say just take, if you don't do anything else from anything I talked about today, I would say take 2 or 3 days, take a piece of paper out right now, put it on somewhere where you're going to look at it every day, and write at the top morning, in the middle afternoon, and at the bottom night, and just sort of try to keep track of some of the habits that you're doing, because I guarantee you there's a lot of things that are on autopilot that you have no idea that you're doing. Some may surprise you in a good way, but chances are a lot of them you'll be like, what the hell am I doing that for? Like, right. And then just take a look at that list at the end of, I actually say 5 days is optimal. And you it's okay. You don't have to get it all in 2 to 3 days or 5 days. You're going to add things as you go on. And this is, by the way, is more like a Monday through Friday list. Like the weekends are kind of all bets are off because it's different. For me, I'm fulfilling different types of course, but just like your routine on a Monday through Friday, like what is it? And sort of try to get that down and the habits involved. And what I actually do is I put the ones that are failure habits in red, and then I put the ones that are neutral in black, and I put the ones that are success habits in green. And my goal is to have all of mine be green. And so the red ones you want to replace with success habits and turn them to green or eliminate altogether. But ideally replace. It's easier to replace a habit than to just eliminate it altogether. And even the black ones. So for instance, taking a shower would be a neutral habit because I'm doing it no matter what already.
Sure.
But there's an opportunity to habit stack where I then have 3 green ones in there. I have that be grateful, my mantra, and my stretching exercises. So I basically turn that neutral habit into a success habit. So that would be the one thing I would recommend to people.
Man, that's fantastic. Like, last couple of minutes of this episode were some of the most action packed. I love it. Now I'm literally going to go rewind this. Wait, see, we're Gen X. We rewind things. That's a thing. Watch that again. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. That's what tech's for, right? Use it for good versus evil. And I do have templates. I mean, I'll share them with you because we're buddies now, and we've talked a bunch of times that I actually every morning I score myself. So so I have these habits that I'm telling you about, and I've figured out, and I actually review I have them all written down, my routine, and I look at the previous day and I go, how did I do yesterday? Or you can either do it at night or the next morning. I tend to do it the next morning, and I score myself. And so I have some templates that I can give you and anybody watching. I'm happy to help them out with as well.
That's fantastic. Will Moore is the guy to teach you how to get the high score in your own life. I think that's what we're going to title this episode.
I like it.
Like that.
High score. I like it.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic, man. Thank you so much. You stick around for me, and I appreciate you being on here, sir. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. This was awesome. I really appreciate you having me on, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, folks, until next time, grow big or go home. See ya.